Mia, how are you today?
Oh, not great.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear. Why is that?
I've been struggling with my drinking lately. I feel like it's getting a bit out of control. I don't really have any control over it anymore, and I can see it starting to affect my everyday life now as well.
Are you drinking every day at the moment?
Yeah, at least once a day.
And are these occurring mostly in the evening or throughout the day?
I think it's most often in the evening. It's when I finish work, come home, just before I go to bed.
Okay. Well, let's start today by discussing a couple of the things that you like about drinking.
Well, I like the social aspect of it. It's fun to go out and have drinks with people, have a good time when I'm drinking.
Okay. Are a lot of your friends big drinkers?
Yeah, I think almost all of my friends have always been big drinkers. So if we are going out together, going to do something, it's generally going out to have drinks.
Okay. What about your family? Are they big drinkers?
Yeah, my family's always been big drinkers. I kind of grew up around it. Never really known anything different with them. So it's quite easy to come home and have a drink with them every day as well.
Okay. Do you have any other reasons for drinking?
I think it's quite relaxing after I've had a bad day or a pretty big day. It's nice to come home and just sit down and chill out with a drink.
Okay. Have you had any attempts in the past to cut out drinking?
Yeah, I've definitely tried a few times, just not successfully.
Okay. What caused you to relapse after these attempts?
I think it's mainly the fact that I'm surrounded by alcohol. There's always someone around me drinking. It's quite hard to stop doing it myself when everyone else is just doing it.
Okay. So to summarize the points that we're discussing about the things that you like about alcohol, we're talking about the social aspect of it. So your friends are all big drinkers, and whenever you hang out with your friends, say on the weekend or possibly after work, you're most likely going to be drinking. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's definitely right.
Okay, and then we also talked about your family and how they're also quite big drinkers. So you've grown up around drinking, and it's just kind of another social aspect to your life. You come home after work and you have a drink with your family. And then the final point that you talked about was that you find having a drink to be quite relaxing and something that kind of helps you recoup after a hard day at work. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think I have the harder days more often than not, so it's definitely something that's encouraging me to drink more.
Okay. Well, now that we've discussed the things that you like about drinking, why don't we talk about some of the things that you don't particularly like about drinking?
I don't really like the way that it makes me feel when I've had a bit too much to drink. I feel like I can't regulate my emotions correctly. I don't really have much control. I can be quite reactive and get angry quite easily.
Okay. Are these kind of reactions having an impact on your relationships, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think I lash out quite easily when I drink, so it's definitely affecting my relationships with people close to me.
Okay, and by relationships, we're talking about like your friends and your family, would you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. What other things don't you particularly like about drinking?
I don't really like the hangover every time that I drink. I don't want to have to deal with that as well.
Yeah. And is this hangover having an impact on your work life?
Yeah, definitely. I think it drains me a bit. So I go to work the next day with not 100% energy, struggling to get through what I have to do.
Yeah. And do you think this kind of, this hangover, it also impacts like your mood and your productivity and things like that, which then in turn would impact your relationship with your colleagues?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And is there anything else that you don't like about drinking?
I don't like the dependency that I have on it. I feel like I can't go more than a day without having something to drink. I'm very reliant on having it there.
So has it become a bit of a habit for you, I guess, having a drink in the evening?
Yeah, I think so. It's almost part of my routine now.
Okay, so when we're talking about the things that you don't like about alcohol, we're talking about the way that it makes you act. So you're saying that you're quite reactive when you drink. that you struggle to kind of contain your emotions and regulate your emotions, particularly your anger, and you're lashing out and it's having an impact on your relationship with your friends and family. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And then we also talked about the hangover, and how the hangover is having an impact on your work life. You're struggling to maintain productivity at work. Your mood isn't the same, which is impacting your relationship with your colleagues. And then finally, we talked about the dependency that you feel like you have on alcohol now. So you were saying that it's become part of your routine, and it's a bit of a habit now for you to have a drink after work, and you're struggling to kind of break that routine. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's definitely right.
So now that we've laid out the things that are not particularly positive that you find about drinking, how much of a concern are they to you?
Yeah, I'm pretty concerned about it now. I feel like now that I've been able to acknowledge that it is an issue and it's affecting things like my relationships and my work, it's definitely a bigger problem than I previously thought it was, and I'd like to do something about it sooner rather than later.
Okay. Well, let's just recap. So, initially we discussed the things that you liked about drinking. So you love the social aspect of it and hanging out with your friends and your family and the way it brings you all together. And also that it's quite an easy way to help you relax, having a drink after a day at work. And then we also talked about some of the things that you didn't particularly like about drinking. So we talked about the way that it makes you act, how you struggle to regulate your emotions, and you feel yourself lashing out at people more, which is having an impact on your relationships. And also the hangover is having an impact on your work life, which is impacting your co-worker relationships and also your productivity at work. And we also talked about the dependency that you've developed for alcohol. So now that it's a part of your routine and it's become a habit for you, you've become quite dependent on alcohol to kind of get you through to the next day. So hearing that all laid out, how does that make you feel? Does that kind of summarize it accurately for you?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
Okay. Well, let's talk about some of the differences between the positives and the negatives that you just defined. So when talking about the social aspect of drinking, you're talking about having a good time when you're out with your friends. But when we talked about the negative things about drinking, you were talking about how you feel like you're more reactive and angry when you drink, and how this is having an impact on your relationships. So maybe the social aspect of drinking doesn't actually seem to be as positive as you've mentioned, because you are more reactive and angry when you drink, and this is actually having a negative impact on your relationships. Also, we talked about the negative of hangover. You don't particularly enjoy the hangover aspect of drinking, but you also, on the positive side, talked about finding drinking as a way to kind of recoup and relax after a day at work. So maybe you've kind of set yourself up for this vicious cycle of drinking after you have a bad day at work, which leads to having a hangover, which leads to having another bad day at work because you're less productive. You're probably more easily irritated and agitated by your co-workers, which is probably going to lead to you having a bad day. Then coming home after that bad day, having a drink to help you relax, waking up in the morning, having another hangover, so on and so forth. So the vicious cycle is probably not actually having as positive effect as you would have thought having a drink after work would have been. And then also just talking about the dependency that you have on alcohol might come down to the fact that you view alcohol as a way to like interact with your friends and family, considering that is their that is kind of what they do. They love to drink as well. So I'm thinking it's a good idea if we commit to an achievable short-term goal, something that's not going to cut you off cold turkey from alcohol, but kind of do a step in the right direction. How does that sound?
Yeah, I think I could do that.
Okay. How about something simple, like when you come home after a hard day at work, instead of immediately turning to alcohol to kind of help you relax, you could do something different. So if you're feeling like you're a bit worked up after work, go for a run or go to the gym, do some form of exercise to kind of get out those pent-up emotions. If you feel like you're struggling to relax, maybe have a cup of tea or like a herbal tea or something to kind of calm your body down instead of immediately turning to alcohol, which you know will help calm you down. Try something that's a little less harsh. So how does that sound to you?
Yeah, that sounds doable. I think I could do that.
Pretty achievable? Okay. Well, let's just re-summarize everything that we've talked about today. So we started by discussing some of the things that you liked about drinking. So you like the social aspect of it. Your friends are all big drinkers, and similarly your family are as well. So you, when you're out with your friends, you're drinking with them, and when you're out with your family, you're drinking with them. And also you find alcohol to be quite relaxing and kind of help you calm down after you've had a big day. But when we talked about the things that you didn't particularly like about alcohol, we discussed your dependency on alcohol, and also the hangover that you get from alcohol, which could both have an impact on you, that could also be impacted by the way that you rely on alcohol to calm you down after a bad day. And then we also talked about the way that alcohol makes you act. So you're more reactive when you're drinking, and you're a lot angrier, and you struggle to kind of contain your emotions and handle them in an appropriate way after you've had a couple drinks. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, and then we talked about the differences between the two. So we highlighted that maybe the social aspect that you enjoy about drinking isn't actually as positive, because it's actually impacting your relationships in a negative way, because when you drink, you are more reactive and lash out at people around you, which could include your friends and your family. And then we also talked about the vicious cycle that you've developed by becoming so dependent on alcohol for when you've had a bad day at work. So when you have a bad day, you have a drink, and then when you have a drink, you have a hangover, and then you have a hangover, it leads to you having another bad day at work, and the cycle's repetitive and ongoing. And then finally, we decided to commit to an achievable short-term goal, something that is easy for you to do, nothing that's too nothing that's going to cut out alcohol straight away. And we decided that every time you feel like you are you have a craving for alcohol, or you have had a bad day at work and you feel like you need a drink to kind of bring yourself down and relax, to possibly go for a run. If your emotions are pent up and you've just had a bad day at work, to go for a run, do some form of exercise, something to kind of, take a boxing class or something to kind of take these emotions out, instead of immediately turning to alcohol. And also, possibly if you're feeling like you just want to relax, and you've just had a bad day at work, you want to relax, turning to like herbal teas or something like that to kind of help your body relax instead of immediately turning to alcohol. Does that kind of summarize everything for you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts, any questions, any concerns or anything?
No, I feel like it's simplified it all for me. I feel like it was quite confronting, all put out in front of me, so I'm definitely more motivated and confident that I can make a change.
All right, sounds good to me. Well, I'll leave you with that then, and we'll see how you go in the next session.
Great.
See ya!